At the top of a hill, where the wind whistled through the bamboo and the sky seemed closer, lived an old Zen master named Shunji. His cabin, as simple as a breath, was made of unpolished wood and stones collected from the river. To those who climbed up in search of wisdom, Shunji did not offer immediate words or clear answers. He only offered tea and silence. One day, a young monk named Riku arrived, his forehead beaded with sweat and his heart full of urgency. "Master," he said, bowing deeply, "I have studied the sutras, meditated until my legs no longer hurt, and served in the temple for years. But I feel that something is missing. What more must I do?" Shunji looked at him in silence. Then, he pointed to an old fallen log near the pond and said, "Sit there and do nothing." Riku blinked, confused. "Nothing, master?" "Nothing," Shunji repeated with a calm smile. "Do not think, do not meditate, do not seek to understand. Just sit and allow the world to breathe you." Riku, puzzled, obeyed. The sun caressed his face, the insects sang, and the leaves fell slowly, without haste, without a goal. And for the first time, Riku did not try to understand. He just was. On the first day, Riku shifted restlessly on the log. His mind danced like a monkey trapped. He remembered the sermons, the mantras, the mistakes, the duties still left to fulfill. He felt unproductive, almost guilty. But Shunji said nothing. He simply left him a bowl of rice every morning and watched from a distance as if contemplating a stone in the riverbed. On the second day, Riku began to notice sounds that had previously gone unnoticed. The murmur of the clouds, the crunch of the earth beneath the ants, the hum of a bee drunk on flowers. His body relaxed without him even realizing it. On the third day, something inside him began to crumble, not violently, but gently. It was as if the urgency that had brought him to the hill had dissolved with the morning mist. He no longer expected enlightenment. He didn't even wish to understand. He was simply there. And in that state, something new began to bloom. On the stillness of the fourth day, Riku opened his eyes and saw Master Shunji sitting in front of him, as immovable as a mountain. The old master broke the silence with a question as gentle as the wind. "What have you learned by doing nothing?" Riku thought of answering with something wise, something worthy of a disciple. But he found no words. He simply lowered his gaze and said, "Nothing." "Then you have learned," Shunji replied, smiling with his eyes. Riku frowned. "But if I have done nothing, if I have learned nothing, how is it that I feel so at peace?" Shunji picked up a dry leaf that lay between them. He lifted it with 2 fingers and let it fall, watching how it spun in the air before gently landing on the earth. "Did you see that?" he asked. The leaf did nothing. It didn't fight the wind. It didn't seek the ground. It just surrendered to the moment. And still, it arrived exactly where it was meant to be. Riku nodded slowly. For the first time, he understood without needing to understand. That night, Riku did not meditate. He did not sit in a formal posture nor repeat any mantras. He lay beneath the open skies, listening to the crackle of the fire, the distant song of an owl, and the invisible whisper of the universe that embraced him without demanding anything. At dawn, Shunji approached him with a cup of hot tea. "Do you know why the bamboo doesn't break in the wind?" he asked. Riku shook his head as he received the bowl with gratitude. "Because it doesn't resist. It bends. It yields. It doesn't try to be stronger than what comes. It simply allows itself to be swayed by it." The young monk sipped the tea slowly. Inside him, the silence had become a serene lake. He didn't need to move to feel that everything was in its place. He didn't need to advance to know he wasn't stuck. Shunji looked at him with tenderness. "You've tasted the flavor of doing nothing, Riku. is not abandonment nor laziness. It is pure trust. It is the faith that life knows how to move even when you don't. And Riku, with the steam from the tea caressing his face, knew he was beginning to remember something his soul had always known. As the days passed, Riku stopped counting time. He no longer expected a teaching, nor a sign that he had achieved something. He simply woke up with the sun, walked barefoot through the master's garden, and sat by the pond without searching for anything. One afternoon, while watching the ripples caused by a frog jumping into the water, he understood that even that small leap was part of the great balance. The frog didn't think about its leap, it simply responded to life. And that was enough. Shunji approached and, without saying a word, sat beside him. They both silently watched the reflection of the clouds on the water. "Master," Riku said after a long while, "will I return to the temple? Will I keep serving, studying, doing?" Shunji nodded with serenity. "Yes, you will return. You will do things. You will speak, work, perhaps teach. But now you will know that you don't need to do anything to be whole. Your actions will come from emptiness, not from need." Riku closed his eyes. He no longer felt urgency, nor doubts, only a soft and deep presence, like the wind in the trees, like the setting sun, like life when it is not pushed. The next day, Riku prepared to leave. He tied his cloak, picked up his worn sandals, and bowed to Master Shunji. "Thank you for showing me the way," he said humbly. Shunji gently shook his head. "I didn't show you anything, Riku. You stopped long enough to see it for yourself." Riku smiled. Now he understood. The teaching wasn't in the master's words, nor in the written lessons. It was in the space between things, in the space that opens when one stops intervening. Before leaving, Riku looked once more at the hill, the bamboo, the pond, and he knew that he wasn't bidding farewell to a place, but to a way of thinking. The urgency to change, to achieve, to improve, had vanished like dew under the sun. "What if I forget, Master?" he asked softly. "What if I fall back into haste?" Shunji nodded. "You will fall, and that's okay. Just remember, water always finds its way, not because it pushes, but because it simply flows." Riku nodded in silence, and he began to descend the hill step by step without haste. In the following days, Riku walked through towns and valleys, crossing paths and rivers, with no other purpose than to be present. He didn't speak much, didn't teach yet. He only listened, observed, and in his silence, people found calm. A farmer asked him how to face the drought. Riku didn't answer immediately. He accompanied him to water the fields, without hurry, and together they sat at the end of the furrow. The man, without knowing why, felt less distressed. A mother who was crying for her absent son asked him for comfort. Riku simply stayed by her side, holding her hand. He didn't say that the pain would pass, but in his stillness, she found solace. Riku didn't strive to be wise. He didn't seek to impress or correct. He just was, like a rock by the river, like a breeze between the trees. And little by little, he discovered that by doing nothing, something much deeper began to happen. Others began to remember too, to remember that peace is not attained. It is allowed. As the years passed, Riku did not found a temple, nor did he write a treatise. He became a traveler without a destination, a visitor of the moment. Wherever he went, he left a trail of calm, not because he did something, but because he didn't need to do anything. Children approached him without fear. The elderly offered him tea without reason. And the troubled, upon sitting beside him, felt they could breathe again. Riku was like the sky. He didn't intervene, but he contained everything. One afternoon, sitting beneath a blossoming cherry tree, a young man approached him, with the same urgency that he had had years before. "Master," he said, "what must I do to find peace?" Riku looked at him tenderly, without haste, and he pointed to the tree above them, whose flowers fell gently without anyone pushing them. "Look," he said, "they do nothing, and yet they beautify the world." The young man furrowed his brow, confused, but something in his heart loosened, like a rope that was no longer needed. And so, without grand gestures, without visible achievements or merits, Riku continued on his path. He lived like a leaf carried by the wind, and when he departed from this world, no one noticed immediately, but the silence became deeper,